Yes, you. Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast, a podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? Hey, any youngers, it's me, your host, Jen Glantz, back with another episode of the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. I am 2 slices of Joe's pizza in right now, and I'm feeling really good. You know, for most of the week so far, this was one of the first weeks of my life where I tried to cook almost every single meal for myself. I am somebody who not only does not enjoy cooking, but is not very good at cooking. And the big reason why I'm not good at cooking is because I approach it very carelessly. I don't follow recipes. I don't leave things in the oven long enough. I just do my own thing, which works well for me in other areas of life, but it doesn't work well for me when it comes to cooking. But last Sunday was the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and I really wanted to cook a homemade meal for Adam and I. It's a holiday that means a lot, and we celebrate it every year, and I didn't want to order food in. I didn't want to have pizza. I wanted to have a traditional-ish Jewish meal, which I say that because I don't eat meat. So it was a lot of vegetables that I made, and I got Adam chicken, but I wanted to really make it a big thing. So I spent all weekend researching recipes. I went to 2 grocery stores just to get what I needed. And I spent about 4 hours on Sunday afternoon cooking up this meal. And I gotta tell you, not only was I very proud of myself, but it inspired me to try to cook more. A couple weeks ago, I had a friend I was getting coffee with, and she told me that she's been trying to cook more and eat healthier and things like that. And when I opened up to her and told her that cooking is sort of my thing in life that I just can't seem to get right, she said, Jen, being able to cook a nice meal for yourself or a good meal for yourself is one of the nicest things you can do for yourself. And I know that's a cliche thing or a simple thing to say, but for some reason, her words have not left my mind since she said that to me. Because you're right, to take the time, to take the care for yourself and to make yourself something good is something that's just so nice to do for yourself. So those words have lingered in my head all week, and I've been making my own lunch, making my own dinner, which is not something I do. And I gotta tell you, I like it. I don't love it, but I like it. On Rosh Hashanah, I was feeling a little bit weird because when it comes to holiday times, events, celebrations, we compare our lives to everybody else. And how can we not? You go on Facebook, you go on Instagram during the holiday times, and you see people celebrating with everybody they know, all their family members. Their houses are packed with people who love them. And I looked at my life and I thought, it's just me and Adam. I don't have a big family. And we're here by ourselves celebrating this holiday. And at first I felt sort of bad about that. And then I got upset at myself and I said, you know what, Jen? I think it's really important to remember that celebrations don't have guest lists all the time. Celebrations don't have minimums. You can celebrate a moment, a holiday, an event, a celebration just by yourself. And if you happen to have somebody else there, that's great too. And it also reminded me that family isn't always people who are related to us. Sometimes we celebrate moments in our life with people who aren't quote unquote family, neighbors, friends, people we hardly know, we just met, again, by ourselves. And that counts too. I know we're approaching holiday season, which for some of us becomes compare and contrast season. And I'm guilty of this. I started this podcast because I was feeling so depressed one Thanksgiving. So I know what it's like to spend a holiday just comparing your life to everybody else. But before you do that, just remember that celebration and joy and love is not filling the seats in your house, but doing something different, something special, something that you enjoy during a time to celebrate. Next week is the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur, which is one of the holiest holidays because it's the time where you ask for forgiveness. You're supposed to come clean about all the things you messed up on or didn't do right the year before and ask forgiveness, whether through prayer or contacting people and saying you're sorry or through sending them notes and things like that. It's a holiday that I take relatively seriously because I do think it's a beautiful chance for us to take inventory on not only ourselves, but how we've treated others throughout the year. Last year was the first year I did this. I wrote down all of my friends, every single name of every person who I consider a friend. And while the list wasn't so incredibly long, there were a lot of names on that list. And what I did next to every single name was I gave myself a score between 1 to 5. How good of a friend was I this year to that person? There were some people on there that I felt like I did go above and beyond. I really showed I cared about them. I really tried to be there for them when they needed me and when I thought they needed me, and I gave them 5s. But there were some people that I gave 2 or 3 because, truthfully, there were many missed opportunities that I could have stepped up and shown them how much I cared. I could have called them after months of not calling them. I could have been the one to initiate plans. And when I started to take inventory on my friendships, I started to realize the people in my life who I feel so grateful for and the ones that I need to fight a little harder to keep. I've been looking at friendship under a very close magnifying glass since, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago when my best friend out of nowhere broke up with me. And I've talked about this before on the podcast, but it was such a heartbreaking moment because she didn't necessarily give me a reason why she wanted to end the friendship, but she just told me that the friendship was over. And this was a person who I would have made my maid of honor. This was a person who was my best friend. I saw every single weekend. We talked all the time. This person meant everything to me. And she walked out of my life, and I didn't know why. Breakups are hard in general, but they're even harder when you don't know what you did wrong. And I may never know why that friendship ended, but I think about it constantly. And after it happened, it put me into overdrive of how I can be a better friend to people in my life. And when I started looking at the relationships I have, I realized I approached friendship in a very passive way. I called people when I felt like it. I checked in when I was bored. I made plans when I had nothing else going on. And that's not friendship. That's just using people. I realized that maybe I wasn't such a good friend. And maybe I was, but I realized I could be better. So taking this inventory, which is something I did again this year, showed me a lot. Now, inventory and friendship are not one-sided. So the other half of the paper is where I start to take notes on how I think that person treated me. Were they there for me when I needed them? When I reached out, did they give me the time? Did they make an effort to be my friend, or was it just one-sided? And when I look at that side of the page, it doesn't tell me whether or not I should end friendships, but it tells me whether or not I should really work to improve them. Or if this is a friendship that means so much to me that maybe I should find a way to solve whatever's broken between us. Friendship is one of the trickiest things to define because there is no definition and there aren't any rules. When you're in a romantic relationship, you have a sense of boundaries and you have rules and you have, ways that you're almost expected to show up for one another. But friendship, none of that is spoken about. None of that's agreed upon. One person in a friendship might be so committed to the friendship and the other person might be running away at full speed, and you might never really know what's going on. You just might think what you think. Even if you don't celebrate this Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur, and by the way, this is not a Yom Kippur tradition. This is a Jen Glantz specialty. Spending this week taking inventory on the people in your life and how you treat them and how they treat you gives you clarity. Gives you a sense of what you can continue to work on, and maybe some friendships that you might want to start seeing what happens in the future with. Maybe you let them go, maybe they fade away, or maybe you try one last time to make them work. Either way, know that friendship is one of the most complicated things in the world, yet one of the most beautiful. With good friends in your life, you feel unstoppable. You feel happy. You feel joyful. You feel like you have people there for you, whether or not you need them there for you in that moment. I think we could all use more friends, but we could also all improve the friendships in our lives. And that, my friends, is my challenge for you this week. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz. Hey you! Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz.